And we'll begin by telling you that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has said his administration is on track to making life better for Nigerians. The president stated this on Thursday in a message to mark the second anniversary of his administration. He acknowledged the widespread hardship his reforms have unleashed on Nigerians, especially the removal of fuel subsidies and the harmonization of the foreign exchange market, but added that he does not take the patience of citizens for granted. The president said inflation has begun to ease, with the nation's fiscal deficit now standing at 5.4% of GDP in 2023, up from 3.0% in 2024. He also cited net external reserves, which have grown from almost 500% from $4 billion in 2023 to cover to over 23 billion by the end of 2024. Now let's look at a number of the reforms President Tinubu has implemented across key sectors during his 2 years in office. He has removed the fuel subsidy and unified the Naira's exchange rate and set up a fiscal policy committee to streamline taxes and digitize collections. On security, his administration has freed over 4,600 hostages, arrested 7,000 terrorists, and launched the Mines Marshal Corps. Now, to tackle food insecurity, a big pain point for the nation, Tinubu declared a state of emergency and launched a 100 billion naira fund and distributed inputs nationwide. Now, for major infrastructure projects like the Lagos-Calabar Highway also began alongside a 20 trillion naira Renewed Hope Fund. For education, he signed the Student Loan Act, launched youth empowerment initiatives, restructured NNPC, promoted CNG adoption, and enacted data protection and electricity reform laws, and also appointed new service chiefs. Now, joining us for more on this is Charles Ideho. He's a journalist and public affairs commentator. Mr. Charles, many thanks for doing this with us. The president had a lot to say in his message, but was quiet on areas such as rule of law, which has been at the fore of discussion this couple of months, and also out of school children, among others. How would you score him at midterm?
Okay, well, first of all, thanks for having me. I think first, before I score him, let me quickly say that indeed the president actually warmed himself to me this morning when he made that address or address, because this is the very first time you'll be hearing a president that will admit failure in some areas. Of course, he did admit that Nigerians are suffering, and of course, he cannot take the suffering for granted, which of course is very unpresidential, if you understand what I mean, because for a very long time, all the presidents have been, thumping their chest. They've done well, they've done this, they've done that, but for the president to come out to actually admit that indeed, though they are doing something that they do know that Nigerians are suffering, I think that's one thing that I say he has used to warm himself to. But again, it is very difficult for me to say whether he has performed totally or whether he has failed, because we need to look at it sectorially. If you're just as you, because I listened to your news and all, they talked about what he has done in this, in that. But I think we are still a long way from home. A long way from home, in the sense that, for instance, the growth of the GDP in the past 2 years is still very slow, it's about 3.6% growth rate. Of course, that's quite slow. We hope it will be faster. Then again, another thing I also want to give to the president is the stable external reserve, which of course stands at about if I'm not mistaken, I think it's about $38 billion for now or so. Of course, that's a plus to this administration. Then again, the debt, the level of debt is very high, which of course the records put at about 166.17 trillion naira, which is quite high. Then inflation is also high at 23.71. That's quite that has bust through the ceiling. Okay, so that then again, the one I saw a sore point for me is a very high profligacy in government. Government spending has not reduced. the leakages are still there, which of course have not been plugged, and then government is spending more. And you're talking about even the size of the cabinet is still very, very, very bogus. So I think on this areas, the government has not done well in the issue of profligacy, in the issue of the size of the government. But for, as I said, the growth rate, well, at 3.6, it's a bit okay, but again, we can raise faster than that. And then the issue of insecurity is still a sore point to us, and I think we will do well if we actually face it frontally. Okay, then the issue of the Naira is still struggling. It's still struggling at, I think the parallel market is about 1,600 something Naira, which of course, we can't afford to continue to see our Naira sliding almost at a ratio of 7 Naira daily. In the parallel, and then the officials about 3 point something. So I think the president has a lot to do in his administration to do well for us to begin to see the gains that they are making in the macro. But in the macro sector, as a former business editor, I can say that the president administration has actually done well in the macro sector. But the problem is there's a disconnect between the macro and the micro. That's why the everyday people have not begun to see the gains of the macro and on the micro sector. So if the fiscal policies we have, they're able to align with the monetary policies, and then we begin to feel the importance and then the yields of this government in the issue of the macro sector that I mentioned, I think Nigeria will begin to look up to say, yes, we are heading towards Eldorado.
Now, Charles, I'm glad you went on this trajectory, because it makes me go back, right? Let's go back to that handover day in 1999, just to jog our memories here. And I have to ask, from 1999, if we remove President Tinubu from this equation and look at the democracy we've had since 1999, unbroken, have Nigerians reaped the benefits of democracy that they were yearning for on that fateful day? And how would you say the president is upholding the tenets of democracy?
Good question. But there's a yes, I say no. I always want to answer a question from both divide. On the yes is that at least, well, this is civil rule. As a journalist myself, I do not, when I go on TV, I go on radio to make some public statement, some policy statement. I don't have to be looking over my shoulder whether there will be security. People will say, okay, order from above to now be hounding me. That one we have which of course where I join as a particular journalist. So I can say yes for that. But on the flip side, the no side is that this democracy has really not fair. I mean, have not really done well for the everyday people. Because if you look at the way, it seems as if there's a gap. The gap between the poor and the rich has widened over these many years down the line from 1999. It has widened. I mean, we used to have a middle class, but middle class have been wiped out by government policies, whether political inconsistency, whether policies somersault, whether policies that are geared towards taking care of the elite class. But the everyday people, they're still suffering. So which I said something about the disconnect between the macro and the micro. So the micro level is not doing well, but the macro also have to, sustaining the rich over there. So for me, democracy has not really done well to take care of the welfare of the people. Yes, I am anybody who is in his 50s, in his 40s, who have witnessed military rule, we don't want us to go back to the days of yore when we had military rule, Abacha, all of them. But you see that it seems as if life was better. Life appeared to better. The Naira Sarata, how much was Naira before that Babada came up with the Dutch auction and all that? Naira was, maybe the weight of Naira was higher. You understand? But we were all looking towards having a civil rule. We got civil rule, but civil rule has not actually done well for the everyday people to actually say, yes, they have a stake in this country, and there's a government but to whom they have surrendered their mandate to, collectively from 1990 now, successive government. I don't think we'll have too many Nigerians, apart from those who are benefiting, who are on the grounds of power, or people who are linked to the people on the grounds of power and all that. People who are benefiting from successive government will say, yeah, they are doing well. But the everyday people that have been chastised, the everyday people that have been pauperized, the everyday people have been depressed and suppressed in the manner of speaking. I don't think democracy or civil, whatever nomenclature you may pin on it, has actually helped us at all.
I mean, Charles, I wish you could continue because, but just to state this, right? As we talk about democracy, there was something that you said. I mean, in your submission, you had to put a caveat and say that I have to be clear and and play on both sides because of just so you don't want people on your back. And so it begs to ask a question about freedom of democracy, or better yet, the freedom of journalism and press freedom in this dispensation when it comes to democracy and their intolerance for dissent. But that's going to be a different conversation for another day. But I must say thank you, Charles, for taking out the time to join us. Charles Ideho, he is a public analyst and commentator. And let's switch gears to other matters. The Court of Appeal has dismissed a petition by the PDP's Asue Godalu's that he's challenging the victory of APC's Monday Okpolo in the governorship election. Now, the court ruled that the petition lacked merit, noting that Ighodalo failed to provide or prove allegations of irregularities or non-compliance with the Electoral Act. It held that no credible witnesses or vital electoral materials were presented, making the case speculative. Meanwhile, Governor Monday Okpolo has hailed the ruling of the court appeal, affirming his election victory, describing it as a victory for the people of Edo State.
In the game of politics, you talk to the people, and the people will accept you. The PDP, their time is over. They did nothing for 8 years. Why do you think our people will vote for them? And what you are seeing is in court today is what Edo people have decided, that they need a change, and that is the change you are seeing. For me, I feel that the Edo people right now, they are being liberated. Yes. Peace is back to Edo. Yes. And Edo has spoken. No man can change it. And God has spoken. No man can change it. Yes. So that is the truth. My kudos to the judiciary. These people were ready. They had stolen a lot of Edo money. They were ready to throw it. But they said, no. We have a name to protect. We have integrity. And we need to protect the law of the land. That's what you are seeing today. It's not about me now. It's about the judiciary.
Still on judicial matters, we head to Abuja, where the Federal High Court has ruled on the trial within trial of Biafra nationalist agitator, and that's Nnamdi Kanu. Now, Justice James Omotosho says the prosecution failed to prove that Kanu's 2015 statement was obtained in line with legal procedure. Now, while the judge noted that the video showed a cordial environment with no visible signs of coercion, he emphasized that the absence of legal representation during the recording renders the statement inadmissible. Citing Section 15 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act and Section 32 of the Constitution, Justice Omotosho ruled that statements must be taken in the presence of legal counsel or an approved representative. The court further rejected Kanu's statements dated October 21st to 24 and November 4th of 2015. Along with all accompanying video recordings as well. Now, Justice Omotosho also issued a stern warning over the real-time publishing of court proceedings online, singling out Nnamdi Kanu's sister-in-law, Favour Kanu. He further banned her from entering the court premises unless she has a case in court. The court, however, adjourned to 13th, 16th, 18th, and 19th of June for continuation of trial. And you're welcome back. Tensions are high in Kano State following a violent attack on the Rano Divisional Police Station that has reportedly left an officer dead. Angry youths in the area went on a rampage, setting fire to parts of the police station and destroying several vehicles. This follows the death of a local motorcycle mechanic, Abdullahi Musa, who was arrested Sunday evening for alleged reckless behavior and drug use. According to a police statement, Musa fell ill while in custody and was rushed to Ranu General Hospital, where he died the next morning. News of his death triggered violent protests, during which hoodlums looted the station, set fire to 2 vehicles, and vandalized at least 10 And vandalized. Apologies for that break there. The news of his death triggered violent protests during which hoodlums looted the station, set fire to 2 vehicles and vandalized at least 10 others. The police have confirmed the arrest of 27 suspects in connection to the incident. We'll switch gears now as the Senate focused on key fiscal and security matters affecting various parts of the country. Top on the agenda was the passage of the 2025 budgets for Rivers State and the FCT, as well as a motion on the worsening security situation in Taraba State. Now, News Central's National Assembly correspondent Sagir Ibrahim brings the details.
After weeks of political stalemate in Rivers State, the Senate passed for second reading the 1.481 trillion naira 2025 appropriation bill for the state, now under emergency rule. The budget, transmitted to the Senate via a letter from President Bola Tinubu with lead debate read by Senate leader Okpeyemi Bamidele, seeks to stabilize governance, restore services, and revive the local economy through strategic investments in infrastructure, education, healthcare, and youth empowerment. The budget is expected to run until December 31st, 2025.
This budget is specifically for the emergency room, government of Rivers State, aimed at providing essential services such as 1. Infrastructure development, over 324 billion naira allocated for road project. 2. Agriculture. 3. Education.
The bill is now committed to the Special Ad Hoc Committee to supervise the activities of the interim administrator of Rivers State and to revert to the Senate in 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Shortly after, the chamber passed the 1.81 trillion naira 2025 statutory appropriation bill of the Federal Capital Territory for third reading. The Senate adopted a harmonized report by both chambers of the National Assembly, with over 72% of the FCT budget allocated to capital expenditure.
The total recurrent of the budget is 27.69, while the total capital is 72.31%. I will commend that this policy to all tiers of government, particularly the federal government, to emulate.
The budget pass will not only benefit the capital expenditure of FCT, will also benefit the human development of the residents of FCT and lead to influx of foreign direct investment into Nigeria.
On security, Senator Issa Low raised a motion calling attention to renewed violence in Karim Lamido, Taraba State. He told the chamber that over 70 persons were killed in a recent attack, with homes razed and hundreds displaced.
The same Karim Lamido local government, which share boundary with Plateau and Bauchi State, have been suffering from attacks by bandits using the border as their hideout.
When we get information that attacks are going to take place, that the security agencies should rise up. We'll have to look deeper into the sudden surge of crisis nationwide.
The Senate adopted the motion's prayers, observed a minute of silence for the victims, and urged the deployment of surveillance camps. It also directed the National Emergency Management Agency and the Northeast Development Commission to provide immediate humanitarian relief. In Abuja for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
A group under the banner of the Independent Public Service and Accountability Watch has staged a demonstration in Abuja demanding the arrest and persecution of activist Omoyele Sowore. The demonstrators accuse Sowore of cyber libel, willful misinformation, character assassination, and incitement, among other allegations. They called on government to prosecute the #RevolutionNow convener to serve as a deterrent to others.
There was a 30 days run challenge, and out of those I watched over 15,000 videos, and I discovered that most of these challenges, most of this ranting, none of them provide one single solution to our national discourse. what is the essence of criticism when it is not constructive? Enough is enough. We should not continue in the act of raising critics that will continue to complain without country solutions. I have a part to play, the government has a part to play. Are we truly playing our own part as citizens, as youth? That should be the mindset, that should be the value, that should be the re-education, the reorientation of Nigerian youth into contributing.
Millions of women and girls in Nigeria and around the world continue to face challenges managing their periods with dignity. Limited access to sanitary products, unsafe facilities, and persistent stigma are costing girls their health, education, and future opportunities. As the world marks Menstrual Hygiene Day, advocates in Nigeria are calling for urgent reforms to end what they describe as period poverty. News Central's Shewaishe Enyo has more.
Menstrual hygiene remains an urgent public concern in Nigeria, with growing calls from health experts, advocates, and educators for it to be prioritized in national policy.
We're trying to ensure that young girls have access to sanitary pads and other things that they need that will ensure that they can have their menstruation, they're able to afford, they're accessible, such that even our schools and even public places, hygiene products are available there. There is wash facilities, which is water, sanitation, hygiene measures, good toilets, where girls can, in a dignifiable manner, can go change their sanitary pads without feeling stigmatized, without being discriminated against.
Period poverty continues to affect millions across Nigeria. Many girls miss classes during their periods due to lack of sanitary pads or private washroom facilities, while social stigma deepens the silence around menstrual health.
A lot of issues, taboos, stigmas, and all of that have been associated with menstrual health. So this day is very important because all over the world, it's been celebrated for women, for us to embrace our flow and together have a menstrual-friendly world.
Beyond the physical challenges, menstruation remains shrouded in silence, shame, and harmful cultural taboos. Advocates stress that menstrual health is deeply tied to gender equality, education, and public health, and must be treated as a national priority.
There's a lot of information that's come out this morning from the medical practitioners, and from also the people around. Second thing is mentoring. That's the reason why we chose the diversities of people that were around, so that the teenagers can mentor the children that are coming. The youths, that are already in schools can mentor those ones that are teenagers, and then the mothers, that have that can show some level of support. So that you are not alone.
1 in 4 women and girls in West and Central Africa lack access to basic menstrual hygiene. Advocates say this isn't just a health issue, it's about dignity, justice, and equality. They are calling for menstrual health to be prioritized through better access to sanitary products, improved school facilities, and menstrual education.
The federal government has been urged to focus urgently on child malnutrition, a silent yet devastating crisis affecting millions across the country. Now, this crisis encompasses a range of issues from undernutrition to overnutrition, but Nigeria faces a particularly high burden of undernutrition. Now, health experts are calling on families and all levels of government to make nutrition a top priority to safeguard the well-being of the nation's children. News Central's correspondent Aishatu Salihu has more.
Nutrition remains a pressing public health concern in Nigeria. An estimated 2 million children suffer from severe acute malnutrition, yet only 2 in 10 currently receive the treatment they need. Malnutrition is a direct or contributing factor in 45% of all deaths among Nigerian children under 5. Despite the federal government's launch of the Nutrition 774 and 774 initiative which aims to address malnutrition through a grassroots approach, concerns persist over the pace and effectiveness of its implementation.
Malnutrition not be tackled if we don't go across different sectors. So the initiative aims to ensure multi-sectoral collaboration.
We need the state government and the local government to take ownership. We're talking of their people, making sure that their children, their mothers in their constituencies receive the best nutrition.
According to WHO guidelines, a child should be exclusively breastfed for the first 6 months and continue to breastfeed alongside complementary foods until at least age 2. But for many Nigerian mothers, economic hardship makes achieving this ideal unattainable.
You know, when you combine your beans, your crayfish, you know, your vegetables, these are things that are still affordable. When you combine these things in the little proportion, I think it also counts.
For adolescents in school who face eating disorders, obesity, and a number of factors affecting their nutrition and development, experts recommend ways to address the challenge to make them achieve adequate health outcomes.
Half of your plate of your food should contain fruit and vegetables. The other half should carry the grains or what will provide you the good food. That's the calorie, the energy you need. Then the other half should provide you, the other 1/4 should provide you the growth food. That's the protein that will help build your body.
To educate the school leaders, prefects, school representative council, for them to actually be conscious of balanced diet when they make choices for food.
The parents, by making sure that each food that I take to school every day has all the classes of balanced diet, or if not all, at least the major classes should be involved in the food. And my teachers, by making me ensure and enforce the need of taking that food and supporting me and teaching me why I need to take that food.
Experts maintain that high rates of malnutrition pose significant public health and development challenges for the country, increasing the risk of death, poor cognitive development, reduced educational performance, and low productivity in adulthood, all of which contributes to economic losses for Nigeria's gross domestic product if left unchecked. In Abuja, for News Central, Aishat Salihu.
Many thanks to Aisha Salihu for that report. You're watching News Now on News Central Television. And you're welcome back. And it's off to South Africa, where the country's crime situation is under the spotlight once again. Recent incidents have brought the issue into sharp focus, highlighting the ongoing challenges the country faces in ensuring safety for all citizens and inhabitants. Recent killings of 2 Nigerians, Adeyemi Ismaila and Taiwo Raji, has raised concern. However, this incident is not isolated. Earlier this week, Ola Reto Mogali's body was found under mysterious circumstances. News Center's Wagani Ziziba has more.
When I heard that my father passed on, I was very angry. I thought and said, who is this person who killed my father? I cried very much and I miss my father so much. My father was my best friend. He used to take care of our family. And
April the 20th, a day Nolutando Raji and her family will live to remember, but the saddest, the day that started like any other but ended in tragedy. That night, death came like a thief in the dark. It stole her father away, Taiwo Raji, along with his friend Adeyemi Ismaila, a father of 2, gunned down for a crime they say they did not commit. Every day, these men sat outside this hotel selling goods to provide for their families, unaware that their lives would be cut short, their future stolen in an instant.
I was sleeping because it was late, and then suddenly I heard a gunshot many times. First of all, it was 3 shots, and then after a few minutes, it was several shots. And then in a few minutes, I had a knock on my door. When I opened, it was my neighbor. Then they passed the message out to me. There's people who were shot in front of Capital Inn Hotel, and Papa Juna is also there, which is Adeyemi Akiwumi.
Now these widows seek justice, but they say the courts are failing them. The killer is out on bail, enjoying life as if nothing happened, while they are left to pick up the pieces.
The offender, the killer, he's outside enjoying his life outside with his own children. As we don't have husband, we don't have father of our children. People, the person who can provide for my children is no more. I'm talking for my own side. The man who used to go out there to hustle a bread for my children, who's going to provide that bread for my kids now?
And okay, to our government, what does our government do about it? To me, it seems like they're giving people that they can kill as much as they want because they won't be arrested.
NICASA President Frank Onyekolo spoke to News Central about the tragedy and how crime continues to claim innocent lives. He urged all foreign nationals living in South Africa to stay away from criminality.
But all we are saying is we are Africans. When someone is caught up in a criminal activity, let him face the music, let him face the law. And I'm encouraging all foreign nationals in South Africa, let's do what is right. Let's obey the law of the country. Let us live peaceably within our neighborhood.
This tragedy is not isolated. Olerato Mkhale was found dead after being picked by an unknown man at her university last week. And many others are murdered every day in the country. These are just few examples of rising tide of violence gripping South Africa. Meanwhile, Noluthando has a message for your father's killer.
I wonder who was the person who killed my father, and I wish not to see this person who killed my father because I don't want to see him, I don't want to talk to him, I don't want to ask him any questions. I want to tell my father that I loved him back and he must fight back to the person who killed him and he must also rest in peace.
As South Africa continues to grapple with high crime rate, the pain of families like that of Olerato Obugi continue to grow deeper. The fight for justice continues, but the scars and the pain will remain. In Pretoria for News Central, Wangani Siziba.
Still in South Africa, a heartbreaking case that gripped the nation has come to a close. A mother and two accomplices have been sentenced to life in prison for kidnapping and trafficking a 6-year-old girl, her own daughter. On Thursday, a South African court handed down life sentences to Raquel Kelly Smith, her boyfriend and a mutual friend, after they were found guilty of kidnapping and selling 6-year-old Jocelyn Smith. The young girl went missing in February last year when her home in Saldanha Bay, a quiet fishing town north of Cape Town. Now, despite months of nationwide searches and public appeals, Jocelyn is yet to be found. Judge Nathan Erasmus ruled that the trio be imprisoned for life on charges of human trafficking. In addition, they were each given a concurrent 10-year sentence for kidnapping.
There's nothing that I can find that is redeeming and deserving of a lesser sentence than the harshest I can impose. Because I've imposed life imprisonment, there is no need for me to rule on the concurrency of the sentences, because by operation of law it will be served concurrently.
My ouers het vir haar net die beste gegee en sy het in 'n welgestelde huis groot geraak. So dit was haar keuses, al hierdie keuses wat sy gemaak het.
The 6-year-old Jocelyn Smith is still missing. We urge the community and everybody to continue looking for her. Today's result is also a testimony of what happens if community, stakeholders, everybody works.
A severe cholera outbreak has killed 70 people in just 2 days in Sudan's conflict-ravaged capital, Khartoum, according to health officials. The state's health ministry reported 1,177 new cases and 45 deaths on Tuesday, followed by 942 cases and 25 deaths on Wednesday, signaling a rapid surge in infections. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is reaching a breaking point. At least 44 people were killed in Israeli strikes on Thursday as chaos erupted at aid centers and desperate civilians looted a UN food warehouse. Now, with starvation looming and international pressure mounting, questions are growing over how humanitarian assistance is being delivered and who is being left behind. For News Central, international correspondent Afia Hagen reports.
The humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza continues to worsen. At least 44 people were killed in Israeli strikes across the territory on Thursday, according to local officials, as desperate Palestinians looted food supplies and aid centers descended into chaos. Among the dead, 23 were killed in a single strike on a home in the central refugee camp of Al-Bureji. Gaza's civil defense services say Israeli raids have intensified, targeting what the military calls terror infrastructure, part of a renewed push to eliminate Hamas. Elsewhere, scenes of desperation played out near a US-backed humanitarian aid center in southern Gaza. 2 people were killed and several wounded as gunfire erupted amid growing anger over how food is being distributed. Just a day earlier, thousands stormed a World Food Programme warehouse in Deir al-Balah. Footage shows gunshots ringing out as people fled with sacks of emergency food. The WFP called it hordes of hungry people, a sign of just how desperate the situation has become. Jordan has accused Israel of using systematic starvation tactics, and the UN warns that 1 in 5 people in Gaza is on the brink of famine. The aid distribution system, run by the controversial Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, is under fire. Critics say it bypasses established UN-led systems and leaves the most vulnerable behind. Negotiations on a ceasefire continue behind closed doors, but on the ground, hope is running out. The war, now in its 18th month, shows no sign of ending, and for civilians caught in the crossfire, survival has become a daily struggle. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagen.
Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we come back, we'll tell you the new leader for the AFDB, that's the African Development Bank, after the break. And you're welcome back. Mauritania's former economy minister, Sidi Ould Tah, has been elected to succeed Nigeria's Akinwumi Adesina as president of the African Development Bank, AFDB, and tackle the withdrawal of U.S. financing from the institution. In 2015, Adesina took 6 rounds of voting to become Africa's super banker, but 60-year-old Tah secured the prestigious post in only 3, winning 76.18% of votes. Tah, who headed the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa for 10 years, secured 72.37% of African votes. Now, in a speech for the AFDB leadership, he vowed to strengthen regional financial institutions, assert Africa's financial independence on global markets, use population growth as a development lever, and build climate change-resistant infrastructure. Well, lofty promises, and congratulations to him. Now, the federal government has approved a 10-year national policy on marine and blue economy from 2025 to 2034. Now, the policy aims to harness Nigeria's vast marine resources to drive economic growth, including over 853 kilometers of coastline. News Central's maritime correspondent Neoma Obiasulo looks at how this policy can unlock Nigeria's most underutilized sectors. Take a look.
Thank you very much. President Bola Tinubu's administration launched the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy in August 2023, aiming to tap into Nigeria's vast maritime potential. With a long-awaited national policy finally unveiled, attention is turning to its implementation. The policy promises to harness over 853 kilometers of coastline, boost sustainable development, protect marine environment, and generate jobs. However, concerns are rising about whether the plan will be effectively executed. Looking at the critical need for a robust implementation framework that engages private sector players, promotes sustainable fisheries, and ensures environmental accountability. Will this blueprint transform one of Nigeria's most underutilized sectors or become another missed opportunity? Stakeholders share concerns.
So you'll be judged by the milestones, by the activities that you are supposed to work on. So the policy, to me, I think, is the greatest thing. You can't really start on or get the best of blue economy without having a policy. The policy is that which you will use to enforce, compliance with the team. So it's a much needed guide that the country needed, because it comes with a lot of benefits. What are the benefits? There's the economic benefit, because everything now is going to be controlled, not teleguided per se, but it's going to have a structure to the approach, and so the leakages will not be there again. Everything before, there will be a structured approach to approvals, to activities, to exploitation, to exploration, and so the government would now be in total control.
If the 10-year plan is actually implemented properly, aside the fact that we will have more revenue generated, we also have some departments, issue of fishery, issue of tourism, where government can generate billions of naira. I propose that issue of tourism alone, government can generate nothing less than $10 billion annually if it is well implemented. There are corrosive elements on our waterways which nobody has spoken about, and people are just corroding the waterways. There is no penalty, no sanctions for anybody. With this 10-year plan, we will be able to monitor it. You can only add value to Nigerian maritime industry. You cannot continue to be a risk to the waterway, because if you are corroding the waterway, particularly or abandoned vessels, abandoned wrecks, what is the role of government? When will they be moved out of our waterways?
In essence, the success of Nigeria's Blue Economy national policy hinges on a well-structured implementation plan that integrates various stakeholders, ensures sustainable practices, and promotes economic growth while protecting the environment. The days ahead will prove these concerns right or wrong. In Lagos, for News Central, Norma Obiaswalo.
And that's where we wrap this up. That's all we can take at this hour. Now, before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. President Tinubu, in his midterm speech, has acknowledged that Nigerians are suffering nationwide, but promises better days ahead. And we head to the courts as the Court of Appeal has affirmed Monday Okweolu's election as governor of Edo State. And finally, outside Nigeria, a South African mother has been sentenced to life for selling 6-year-old daughter. Now, do remember they can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. Make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can always watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422. We're also on GoTV, channel 23, Star Times as well, channel 274. Find us on Apple TV and stream us live on YouTube. That's about 4 platforms. There's no way you can keep in touch. Well, many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV. Catch you at 8.